Hello, you're very welcome to our podcast, Unmuzzled Conversations. It's great to have your company. With me, Christine, my brother Stuart.
Hi there.
And our friend Tommy.
Hello.
So every week we are sharing our nostalgic and sometimes humorous views about Glasgow and Glaswegians from the 1940s to current day, talking about the topics of the time. As well as that, we're talking about our own experiences of being brought up in Glasgow and living in Glasgow. So today we are in series 2 and we are talking about the new year gone past. And Cam has given us this lovely fire as a lovely backdrop for us again this week. So that is great. So we're going to kind of talk about how New Year was for us and probably, I think, traditions that we've talked about that I think don't exist now. Well, we talk about the one that was very obvious, which was a first foot. Tell us, Stuart, about a first foot.
Well, I'm not really that qualified in this because I've never been much of a drinker and I never really liked New Year that much, but obviously I was there. It was a thing you just fell into. But as far as I can recall, a first foot was the first person who would be in your house that year, which would be, seconds.
Physically from midnight.
Second, an outsider, not of your family.
Oh, really?
Or not someone who lived in the house.
Oh, I see.
It was to be a visitor.
I remember my dad getting pushed out some of the time.
It was supposed to be a visitor,
Yeah.
So it would have to be, I think it was always to be a man, and you had to have dark hair, quite tall, dark hair, and he'd be carrying a lump of coal and a drink. Sometimes maybe a bit of black bun or something as well. Yeah. But these were the two main things.
And that was to signify what? Prosperity and good luck and heat in your house. And just friendship with the bottle. Normally be, in those days it would be whiskey. And something to eat would be a Dundee cake or something like that. Aye. I mean, I remember
also have the lump of coal.
Tommy, that's right,
which it was supposed to be, and then because they had the coal fires, he was supposedly brought it in, put the coal in the fire, and said, "Lang me your Limerick."
Oh goodness, I forgot about
that.
There you go.
That was
and that was just
tradition.
Yeah. So I don't think these exist now, do they? Any of these traditions?
I don't know anybody who carries coal about them.
No, I know who even would know what coal was. Probably Cam. Like, what on earth are you talking about? I think I remember meeting a friend of my mother's just after the New Year, and she was saying to my mother, "Oh, Happy New Year." People said that for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I don't. Do people still say that to each other now?
I don't know.
After the sort
I always found it quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
I
remember
after the first, I used to think,
I remember sometimes, like now, going into the park on New Year's Day or the day after it, and people that you don't know would say Happy New Year. So now that's quite nice. That's like kind of Scottish friendly kind of thing. But I remember a woman saying to my mum, "Oh, what a fucking New Year we've had." And she says, "Oh, what happened?" "Well, we're a fucking blonde person for our first foot." I mean, that's us fucking doomed now for the rest of the year because that did not fit the criteria of good luck. And so I think that's why people get put out. Somebody was designated and put out because they were, I don't mean terrified.
If there was a party going on, you could put one of your visitors out and then they could come back in.
But see if you forgot and you were getting involved in the celebrations and just somebody would arrive at your house and it was a blonde. Get her out, what's she doing? And all that welcoming stuff. So people, I don't mean they were terrified, but there was a kind of tradition
thing. Don't let them in.
After the bells.
You can come in. You can come. You're not getting in.
Absolutely. So for you and I growing up, Stuart, it was a very, very traditional and had much more status than New Year than Christmas.
We went through.
But I just mean in terms of importance, Christmas didn't really have the importance that the New Year had
Socially,
when we were young.
No, it didn't.
Were you like that, Tommy, as well? Were your family like that, where New Year was far more significant?
Yes, definitely. Well, especially the family. I was almost an only child, and from a point of view, I have a sister who's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So if you imagine all these New Years when I eventually realised what it was, right, and we would always go to my aunties and uncles. We'd always go there because we didn't have a big family
of your own.
Of our own.
Yeah.
So we would go there, but the family would who all stayed in the sort of Govan area plantation, would all congregate in one of the houses, they were all local. They all stayed down.
So they could walk
closest to each
literally,
other, only 2-3 closes away.
Yeah.
And some stayed up the same close. Family stayed up. We all went there, and as they say, it was soon the singing started very quickly.
It was, yeah. One of the things I remember, I think quite clearly, is that there was very little drunkenness. So it wasn't a question of people drinking at our celebrations. I mean, I'm talking about us growing up and our New Year. That there was quite a lot of drink consumed, and it was very continuous. It was just, when we went to our auntie. Our auntie, the dinner started at 6, so it was an early start. An early start for the New Year. This was New Year's night. We had to be there at 6, and there was a 3-course, very elaborate dinner put on for everybody. So it would start with usually something like a prawn cocktail or a soup, or maybe both. Or sometimes it was 5 courses. It was really elaborate, and again, it was a beautiful table, all set out, and you had to be there on time, and a lot of expense and time. Lovely, lovely dinner. So even though people are starting then and they're getting a whiskey as they come in the door, so that they're going to be there till for a good 6 or 7 hours. But I don't remember, and I went to the parties a lot longer than you because you were older and you were married and stuff like that. So I was still in the house, and I don't remember seeing anybody falling about or slurring or causing an argument. Or I think maybe once in all the years somebody had too much to drink and they caused an argument. But that was talked about for years because it was such an unusual, and I remember who it was as well. But it was such an unusual thing to happen because everybody was so excited to see each other because it was time for friends reunion, and it was a happy time and a happy day. I think it was more about the significance of actually a brand new year ahead than getting absolutely bluttered. Were we just lucky, Tommy, or were your family heavy drinkers, or was it?
Well, my uncles were, but my uncles were all dockers.
Right.
And if there was a whiskey boat in, for example, they often come back up the road. That was them finishing their work, steaming. And they would come back for work and they were drunk. So New Year was just an extension of that, even more. I was drinking, as I say, my dad never drank.
And did your mum not drink either?
She did drink a wee bit, but she would drink. She would drink, but nothing
extreme. Not.
They
we were lucky.
They were heavy drinkers. All my uncles were all, just absolute no whiskey.
Aye.
Lots and lots of whiskey and lots of lemon.
So as you say, it was probably just an excuse.
As you say, I never saw any bad behaviour through that, but I know for a fact that they definitely drank a lot. And
I think maybe we were lucky, Stuart. When you think about other situations.
When I was at work as a teenager working, a lot of the guys would be just saying that, the younger men, apprentices like me, you teens, and other men in their 20s and 30s, and they would just steaming, for the couple of days that they were off, they were just bloated, and they would just drink all the time. That's what kind of put me off a lot of that. And I was never really that keen in New Year after that. Our kind of civilised one was fine, but the kind of mad drinking stuff, it never sat well with me at all, and I never get involved in it.
Of course, that would be kind of like young boys. I mean, we're talking about parents.
And they were all. And you have to remember too, Christine, all these guys had fought in the war. Yeah. And they had seen hardship. They'd seen terrible things. Never talked about it. Yeah. But they'd all been in the services. Yeah. So there was a certain amount of discipline with them. And so they were. But they were more disciplined. They were in control, even though they had huge amounts to drink. I'm just thinking as well, it never happened in our family, but some people gave their kids nerdy presents.
Oh, I've never heard of that before. A nerdy present? Mm-hmm. No. Was it one thing in particular?
I remember there was a famous book in Scotland called Tommy's War, and it was this wee boy, and he was born about 1910 or something, and it was actually a story about the Great War, and they were talking about him, and he got his Nerd Day present and things like that. Obviously that's a couple of generations before us, but that was still a thing, and I remember that some people gave their kids Nerd Day presents.
As you say, maybe we were just lucky ones.
Did you hear did you hear the boats in the Clyde sounding their horns at New Year?
No.
Do you know, at midnight?
No.
I did once, Tommy.
Right.
I was once we had a works do, and we stayed over in Gourock or Greenock or someplace like that, and I heard it right through the night. What is this?
The boat, as of, when the Broomielaw was full of boats, the Clyde was full of lots of boats. That ran right up before these squinty bridges and all that were built, and all that was all warehouses, and right up through to Govan, it was just boats all the way, and all the boats at New Year all sounded their horn, at midnight. For the
I've
New
never
Year.
heard that ever.
Oh, you heard all the boats. Of course,
Really?
we were in
You would
Govan.
hear it. You were in Govan, yeah.
At that time, and you'd hear all the boats.
That would have been a
sounding
nice
their
thing,
horns.
wouldn't
It
it?
sounded
A nice thing
great.
too.
It was. It did sound great. That sort of thing. But I was just wondered how far the sound travelled.
I didn't get to Springburn.
No.
I didn't get to Springburn.
Right.
No.
I think as well there was a lot of, getting back to the parties, the community singing was a huge part of the party. There was a lot of singing and Days of the Twist and all that, and records getting played, but everybody looked forward to the moment when that got put off, and now was the time for every person that was there to entertain.
Do your turn.
Right.
Aye.
Do your turn. So it would be singing, but some people told poetry. If they weren't a
I'm sure they would.
particularly
I don't
good
remember that, but
singer,
I'm
they
sure
would
they
tell,
would.
or they sometimes told a wee story, but the bulk of the people were singing. And it was, I was reminding Stuart about the actions, and I think people looked for songs where there was actions because they loved to, and I remember my mother used to practice
Did
before
she?
the new year, because she had a song. Now, we called it The Bells, but I don't know if that was the actual title of the song. But it was basically a New Year song, and the words were, the bells were ringing the old year out and the new year in. So it was the old year out and the new year in. It was all that, and the bells. And it was all that. And she was up and down like this. And so, and even when they were singing anything about a fire, it was always, let's get a fucking action in here, somewhere. And everybody had the same
Singing
song.
for the deaf.
Perfectly put, Tommy. But of course, everybody had their own song, and they sang the same song every year.
Every year.
Every
Yeah.
year. And then I remember new people what sometimes came. It was the same people every year that met up, a reunion every year. And now and again, in fact, rarely, new faces would appear. Oh! Greeted with huge suspicion. Fuck are they? Brought them. Somebody's pals, and clearly they must have been vetted to get in because but everybody's highly suspicious, and highly suspicious of what their song was going to be. That was more of a concern.
In case.
And then one year, when somebody sang my mum's song, and you know how it went round like that. So I think the woman was there. Oh, up she went, giving it the bells and the old year out and the new year in and all that, and might have even been better. My mother was fucking raging out the door. Horns of a dilemma.
What am I going to
This
do?
is me in the horns of a dilemma now. I wasn't ready for that. I was not ready for that. She's went away and sang. I've not getting ready.
My song.
Yeah.
That's my song.
Like a fucking Edith Piaf thing, She sang my song. I'm going to do. What am I going to do? Oh, I have to think about this. I have to give this a lot of thought now. I'm just meant to practice something. Is that I'm just meant to fucking pull something together at the last minute here and all that. So it was quite a serious thing. I think that only happened once, and I don't think I saw that couple again.
Oh, they
so
would
I
never-
think
never have the
they
same
would
band for
that
life.
was a cardinal cardinal sin.
Aye.
And of course, the woman was completely innocent. She didn't even know it was somebody else's song, you know. So
see a lot of these songs of Christine. I mean, I thought that. Remember the Nobody's Child, right? They fucking murdered it.
Aye.
I used to think them and Crystal Chandelier. I thought they were Scottish songs. It's only years and years later I realised they were American country and western songs. What are they doing singing a Scottish song?
well, when you sing it like I'm nobody's child,
As I was slowly passing, an orphan's home one day.
orphan.
An orphan, mispronounce your vowels.
Aye.
You've got to, you know, when you think, can you imagine the people that
What's
wrote...
American about that? I mean,
They're fucking mad. It's like, wonder if any of the people who are maybe still alive who wrote these songs and performed them originally, what are these people doing to your songs? They've killed them, but most people really did think they were Scottish songs.
well, I would have thought them.
Yeah.
I mean, they were
At times,
presented in quite a Scottish way. It was fuck all American about the way these songs were sung and murdered. But I often wondered why they never changed the routine. You would think they would say, you know who used to change the routine? My dad. And
He'd
one
like
year
different songs.
he'd sing Rowan Tree. That was one of his favourites. And then he would sing There Was a Soldier, and he would put his hands out as if, you know, that's the way soldiers cut about, you know, with their arms like a Scottish soldier.
They did one at the road to Dundee.
And he used to do that.
They're roading the miles to
Roading the
Dundee.
miles to Dundee. Aye,
And he did Old Shep. So there was an old Elvis
Right.
Aye, that's
song.
right. Who'd have
He
believed?
used to do that one. So he would change, but nobody else changed. Uncle Peter was I'm forever blowing my bells. One eye shot like that, you know. And I can't remember the other ones, but they were all the same. And in amongst all of that, I would be maybe 10 and I was just a nervous wreck sitting here like that because I knew my turn was coming and there wasn't an option to say no because you just badgered you the whole night. So it kind of ruined my whole thing because I was so nervous and I just hated anything like that. But
I had
you had to
Scotland
do
the
it.
Brave. I was Scotland the Brave that I sang.
Did you?
What
As
did
a
you?
kid, you know,
Oh,
right
right.
through. Right, Thomas, Scotland the Brave. Oh, hark when the night is calling. And I was right through. I was ready for it.
Oh, right, so you were
Always.
born.
Showbiz,
No,
you missed
always,
it, showbiz,
always, that's it.
Born
always
ready.
born-
Just waiting ready.
Yeah.
No,
Somebody-
that's it.
if somebody's not ready, I'll
that's
do it. I'll
No,
do another
that's
one.
right.
I'll do another
That's it. That's it. No, that's it. I'm still the same. As soon as I open the fridge door and the light comes on, I go, the night is calling here. Nothing's changed. No, I'll sing it for you.
Except you're singing to the fridge now. You got a-
But I remember Al Jolson songs. Right?
Oh,
He
yes.
was big. No, I can
He was
remember.
big
I can.
then, aye.
Sonny Boy, was that a
Sonny
biggie
Boy.
one? Aye.
No, I
that?
could sing. I could sing these songs for you right now.
No,
because,
don't.
because I could sing you lots of them. Right, you know, because
about
my
it, Tommy,
uncles
think about
they sang these out. One particular sang that, but they sang them every year.
And did they do the
So I heard
actions
the
as
same
well?
thing. Oh,
the
I down
action.
in
Your
down
knees.
in their knee. No,
And what's
down
that
in
song
the
about
Mammy.
Alabama?
Mammy.
Alabama.
Mammy.
Aye,
No.
Mammy.
So you take
Aye.
it down in your knees.
Walk a million
Right,
miles.
no.
That's
That's the sun shines east, the sun shines west. I know, that was really to say the actions, you know.
Oh.
They were probably pointing north-east and south by southwest, but they just put the sun
didn't
shines
matter.
east,
I knew
the
what you
sun
meant.
shines west.
Everybody was half drunk
that's
anyway,
it.
they had
I
no
know,
idea what we were doing.
I know where the sun shines best.
that's
but-
right.
Oh, and the whole thing was
Oh,
the
and-
hands were.
aye.
It was pure black and white minstrel show.
Aye,
Right,
aye,
that was
aye.
basically
I think-
what we watched at my uncle's. It was
Aye.
like
Well, ours
a
was
rerun
very-
of the black and white minstrel show. They
Ours
should have
was-
went into and got soot out the fire and just and blacked herself up.
Aye,
You know, and they
absolutely.
could have done the whole
Easy,
thing.
no bother. But I think as well, I remember somebody trying to join in with my mum singing. Now, there was a chorus with that song. I can't remember what it was. I think it was the bells were ringing the old year out and the new year in. But there was verses in between that. And somebody, it must have been that new woman, or it must have been another new woman that tried to sing with her. You know, joining in singing, and it wasn't the chorus. And if looks could kill, fucking looking at her like that, still singing, but looking at her like that, as if to say, You should be fucking waiting by the chorus. What on earth are you doing?
But that's
my
when
song.
the famous Glasgow saying, one singer, one song, pal.
One singer, one song. That's
right.
Do
That's
not
absolutely
join
No,
in.
that's it.
No joining
Not ready
in.
until
No join.
unless you were invited
invited
to join in
to
the
join the
chorus.
chorus, aye.
Don't that's it. There's no jumping in, just because you know it as well.
You'll
See,
get
when
your
you
turn.
look-
You'll get your turn.
When you look back, you just think, why did they? You know, why did they never change their songs and, you know, just the same song trotted out? Just a wee bit of tradition, I
It's
suppose.
tradition. It's like singing
Yeah.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer every Christmas. You know, it's the
That's
same
true.
traditional songs. That's what they were, traditional New Year songs.
Yeah.
You know, that for them to sing those. So it was the only opportunity for them to sing it as well. There was no other occasions. You know what I mean? If there wasn't, I must say that sometimes there was parties in houses. Where, say if the whiskey boat was in, you know, there was a party at my Uncle Frank's or my Uncle Coley, and we were at the Coley's, and my Uncle Archie come down the road, and it was like, they're all swarming down. It's a whiskey boat, and I see, and they were and they would sing then. No, but it was the same songs. They would just sing those songs.
I mean, I'm thinking that my mum had quite a few anniversary parties to celebrate her wedding anniversary. But a lot of them were in the Eagle Lodge, so they weren't actually at home. And that was the days of the big long dresses. They used to wear
the
big
70s.
long
The 70s,
dresses.
aye.
I
never suited them.
Yeah, but I remember even at christenings, and sometimes, not if it was in a house, and maybe you would get to the point somebody'd say, let's have a song. That's a wee song. And somebody would burst into song, maybe not like a New Year's song. So there seemed to be, let's look for an occasion to sing for people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as you say, they're very rare occasions when you could get your voice out and really sing in front of other people. And it must have been a very familiar situation because these people it's just like a reunion every single year. And the wedding anniversaries would be the same because it would be the same people.
That's the same people. And
that were
the
coming.
fact that there was there was alcohol, they had drink and they were relaxed and they were singing.
And they
and
knew
the
each other so
inhibitions
well.
have gone a bit,
Aye.
after
Aye.
a certain amount of
Yeah.
whatever you
But
take.
one of the highlights from my mum's parties was that just as the party was beginning to wind down, oh Margaret, I hope you're making your hot peas and vinegar. I've been looking forward to that the full night, so I have. And there she had made these peas, and she put them in a little, very modern, a kind of cardboard cup kind of thing. She would put them in, and you'd get a wee spoon or something to eat them with, and that's what it was. It was like a hot
That'll
peas.
sober you up.
Peas, aye.
That'll still be fucking drive home, no bother. Hey, do you want another one? No bother, that's you. That was the answer.
The dog
And there was no question about it. It was the answer to being able to get home, drive home safely. I think that's one of my hairs there. So that was a highlight. And again, that was a tradition. So there would never, ever be a New Year party without those. Hot peas and vinegars. It was a thing, and people did like them. The smell of them alone would have definitely put me off. But and as well as that, after the New Year, a lot of people came to your house to wish you a happy New Year. So there was a lot of visiting going on. So probably looking at today, people would text you and say, Happy New Year, I hope you have a good New Year or whatever, and less visiting. Do you think so?
Oh, I totally agree with you, Kirsten. Yeah,
Maybe more you, Stuart, because you live quite far away and people might make that effort to come and visit you, but particularly at that time because it is the New Year. But I think for other people that are all living fairly close, I just don't think that exists now at all because communication is done, not even by phone, more by message and email now than even the phone.
Well, as I recall, New Year's Day, I mean, guys like Tommy, we always went to football. There was always a Rangers Celtic game, which was at 3 o'clock as well. It wasn't like the early ones that they are now. And a lot of people, people went to football or not, but they would spend the whole day visiting people, and having a drink at every house. And it wasn't an agreed thing. It was just a thing that people did.
It was a part of these traditions, wasn't it?
That was basically when they would spend their day visiting people. And if they found somewhere except, comfortable and never had to stay. But I recall that, people visiting.
But it was also, visitors were also unexpected things. So you didn't know if people were going to visit you or not. The door would just chat. People very rarely phoned ahead and said, we're in the area or we thought we would pop over. They just arrived on the doorstep.
But you expected, you had to be ready for that. You know,
you were ready.
That was the
ready.
tradition. You know, you had to be ready and have drink in the house and things like that.
Of course, the other thing as well for women was that their house had to be cleaned.
Oh.
That was a big, big thing. Not so much for my mother. She was a person that liked to talk about it, but not really. But for some women, pulled everything out, pulled all the furniture out, pulled all the beds out, and deep cleaned so that you welcomed the new year with a clean house, and that was a really big deal. So, so the other thing I was going to mention was that what was kept in the house for these visitors coming was the 3 cakes made by Bells. There was the Madeira cake, the cherry cake, and the sultana cake. What was your favourite, Tommy?
Oh, sultana every time.
Me too.
Me too. But I liked the cherry one as well, but not the Madeira. That was all people were offered that I can remember.
No,
I don't
Mum
remember.
and Dad would have the Dundee cake. I remember it was really heavy, and sometimes they'd have like a pastry around it.
That's right. Yeah.
And it was really nice, but very, very heavy.
More like a wedding cake type
No,
thing.
heavier than that. Even.
Heavier
As I
than
recall
that?
it, heavier than that. Almost, I kind of
pastry?
call it almost all currants and raisins. I don't know what held it
Sounds
together.
nice.
But it was quite
must have
small,
been,
very, very rich. I remember that. That was she only got that in New Year though. I never ever saw it any other time.
It's the same with these cakes. You know, these cakes were only bought for the new year, but sometimes you'd buy double amounts if you felt there was going to be quite a lot of visitors. And again, that was just kind of tradition. And again, none of that really exists nowadays, does it?
The cordial, blackcurrant
Aye,
cordial,
that was
ginger cordial,
Ginger cordial.
ginger cordial,
remember that.
I don't remember
blackcurrant
that,
cordial.
What, for Wayne's?
Aye,
For
it was,
Wayne's?
it was just a soft drink. You know, it was diluted. You know, it was
Diluting juice.
basically like like Vimto is now, but it was cordial. I think you can still get it
It's like ginger
somewhere.
beer, kinda.
There's ginger
Thick
cordial.
ginger beer, aye.
You could, but you put, as I say, you watered it down. I loved the blackcurrant cordial and the ginger cordial.
Right.
Look forward to that because it was only come out at New Year.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I was saying to Christine earlier, one year, our mum and dad, or my dad, he went to some auction or something. Someone told him about a police auction, right? And it was stuff that had been stolen goods that had never been returned. And he bought a cine camera and a tape recorder. They were just looked brand new. I don't remember what they did. Was it this total madness? When people were, they had actually set up the tape recorder behind the couch, and they'd set up the mic kind of close by, but completely inconspicuous, and didn't tell anybody it was there. So people would come in and sit down, and after about an hour or something, there's maybe a wee lull, and they would take the tape recorder would just come out, and they go, what is that? So listen to this, and they'd play it, right? And nobody had edited this. Nobody had listened to this to see what was on it. And luckily, nothing bad ever happened. But as a Presbyterian, I could foresee all sorts of terrible
I
things
thought you were
happening
going
with
to
that.
tell us,
Well,
you know,
scandal.
mayhem developed.
Well, it easily could have, because
yeah.
The first time a person was murdered in your house.
Well, I mean, the obvious scenario. Well, the people. I'm just thinking of men talking, but women as well could have caused it. But they hadn't seen each other probably for a year, and you can imagine some guy sitting down. How you doing? You still shagging your next door neighbour? I know it's like, can't you? You know, a conversation like that could easily have happened, and they never had listened to it to make sure there was nothing about it. But nothing bad ever came out of these. They were just sensible, mundane conversations. And I remember thinking, maybe I said to them, I can't mind, because I was kind of an older teenager by this time, and I remember thinking, maybe I did say to them because it was such an obvious thing it could have happened. They could have just said, what the fuck, what's she dressed like tonight? You know, anything, just something, small time criticism.
Never thinking.
It doesn't take much,
No,
for
they were very, very
Especially-
lucky. And
maybe
they never did it again.
Maybe as well, it was lucky that they did it when people came in and they didn't have too much of a drink in them. You know what I mean? As well, but still wrong, totally wrong thing to do. Big, but that just goes to show that how innocent they were. That they thought everybody was like them. That nobody was doing anything naughty or that. Well, I seem to think that the drinks that men had then were kind of like a lager, some
beer,
kind of
more
beer
like- more beer.
and a whiskey.
Oh, absolutely.
Whiskey,
Yeah.
Both.
Aye, both. Aye.
I was thinking men didn't drink anything except whiskey in terms of spirits. Would there be a man that would drink a gin and a man that would
I
drink
don't
a
remember any at
vodka?
our house.
And again, Tommy, you were talking about the wee tiny glasses.
We very, very tiny. As I say, we had. Say my dad never drank. Didn't drink at all. I think he got a small glass of beer at New Year. He would sip that for the whole night. That would he would just nurse that the whole night right through. But they bought a quarter bottle of whiskey at New Year
Visitors.
for visitors.
Aye.
A quarter bottle, as I say, the wee tiny. They're like shot glasses are now. They call shot
Well, they're
glasses,
very small.
but
Very chunky as well,
wee,
Tommy.
wee tiny glasses,
Heavy,
and
heavy.
they say if somebody come in, because we always went somewhere. Very few. I don't remember anybody coming to us. We always went to there, so that if somebody did arrive, that they would get a wee. Do you want a wee dram? Right, okay, they'll give them a wee dram. There was that quarter bottle. I think I've seen that. I'm sure sometimes that quarter bottle lasted 4 or 5 years.
God,
No,
wow.
because
Lack of visitors.
Because whenever we did
But that also means that people didn't put anything in their whiskey then, Tommy.
no,
People
it was
didn't
just
put even water
just a
or
wee
that.
shot glass. There we are.
Do you know what I'm just thinking as well? I don't remember ever seeing was wine.
No. Not in those days.
No,
anyway,
but I mean,
no.
there was tons of other spirits that women drank,
yeah.
gin and vodka and whatever else. But I don't ever remember seeing a bottle of wine.
I mean, I seem to remember that we went from the days of women having a sherry, and some had a snowball. You know that
That's right,
Advocaat
lemonade.
with the wee cherry thing and on the top. That was a thing at one time. To suddenly sangria, Bacardi and Coke, because as people ventured further out, they were going on holiday to Spain and stuff, and Bacardi and Coke became a big thing, and women started to drink a lot more. I don't mean excessively, I just mean that it went from a baby sham or a snowball over the years, into...
Some women drank whiskey as well, though, Christine.
Yeah.
Aye.
But we would have something in it, though, would they not?
No,
Stuart?
I remember
not
women.
necessarily. No.
Not a lot of the women, but I do remember. I remember one woman in particular. I mean, she wasn't blood or anything, but she just had a wee glass of whiskey and just sipped it like everybody else.
So things were very, very different then. And when you look at it, there's a sense of almost naivety about it, isn't it? And it goes back to what we said about Christmas, where we seem to be a lot happier with less. We were just really happy to see these people and happy to have that reunion with them, that there was no focus on material things. The only focus on material things would actually be the food. Do you know what I mean? But the whole thing was about celebrating seeing each other again, and we're here another year. And
Do you know what they used to do, though, Christine? I mean, it used to really fucking get me. I don't remember ever boasting about themselves or what they had, but they used to boast about their kids.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I used to go, and you think, why are you doing it? Why do people boast at all? But I remember that was a bit of a cringer, because I remember my dad said, Stuart's doing quite well at school, and I'm going, no, I'm waiting for a disaster to happen. And so, but people did do that, and I don't know if
people
they still
do as
they?
well, very much. I mean, we were at a social thing not that long ago, and somebody was talking non-stop about their children.
Jesus.
And I'm talking about older children, and they had all been incredibly successful. So there's a way that I think to myself, well, I don't really blame that person, for letting us know. I didn't take it. I kind of thought, you're really lucky that you haven't had any problems with your kids. They've all gone on to be very successful in life, and
I think
and
it's
I'm
okay
quite
to say
happy.
it if somebody asks you. But I think to just pull it out of the blue, I think it's karma. I think it's bad karma to do it. There's nothing wrong if somebody asks you how they're doing. You're doing this, doing that. That's great. But to throw it into the conversation, I don't think you help anybody. And people don't like it.
Yeah.
Because other people are going, well, their kids are not doing as well as them, so it's...
And I think as well, if somebody starts it by saying, oh, did I tell you that my son's this and that? Well, immediately your hackles are up and you're thinking, cow, I bet I'll need to get something in here, and she's going, he might ask me in a minute, I better get ready for a wee, and I think it must have been a real trial to have a daughter like me, and they'd say, and how's she getting on? all that kind of thing. My mother would say, oh, because she's a career girl. And they were saying, is she never going to get married? Or, oh, she's a career girl. Oh, a real career girl. So that was a bit hard. I think you were a bit easier because your life was a bit more, acceptable and stuff. So I think that was a hard one for her. But I think they were almost, I keep using the word naive, but I think it's relevant of how people were at that time. And there's a real niceness to that. And I'm really glad that us three as people remember that and remember it with fondness, not in a sense of judging how things are today, but just kind of comparing, because it's a long, long time ago we're talking about here.
56
and just,
years ago.
yeah, so, you're just sort of saying we're still here and we can remember those times. Is one time better than another? Probably for us it is, but maybe young people wouldn't have anything else. I mean, let's talk about that conversation with you and your granddaughter who asked you about the mobile phone thing. It's not really to do with the new year, but it's just to talk about comparisons.
This is Kayla. This is about a few years ago. She was about 8 or something. She says, "Papa, when you were my age, would you tell one of your friends the code for your mobile phone?" I nearly choked. I says, when I lived in the house till I was, off and on till I was about 20. We didn't even have a phone.
Yeah.
Any phone? No, didn't have a phone. No.
But then she's thinking a phone. Mm-hmm. She's not even thinking a landline,
right.
probably.
See, again, we're diversifying a wee bit, but it is relevant. I remember when I always had crap cars. I never had a lot of money, so I always had pretty shitty cars, and they would break down quite a lot. So you'd be used. You prepare yourself for your car breaking down. And in fact, one time I had this car, and it was so inconsistent. I used to always find wherever I was, I would always find a slope to park it on in case I had to shove it. So that was just the kind of cars I had. Mm-hmm. So about a year or so ago, last winter, some of my kids are coming in, my grandkids are visiting us, and they've got this car, they've got this big giant Peugeot, it's a big beautiful thing, and they've always had brilliant cars. And so they came, I think they just stayed the one day, they came on the Saturday and we were back on the Sunday, and it was a crap day outside, and I'm saying, where's your coat? Didn't he bring a coat? What do you mean, did he bring a coat? No. I said, what if the car was to break down? And they looked at me as if to say, the cars break down. Never ever had to face, if you want to call that hardship, potential difficulties if your car broke down. It was inconvenient for a wee while, so you had to be prepared if you're travelling anywhere a distance to our house in the winter. You'd certainly have a coat with you,
Yeah.
But just don't think of that. It's no something to be even considered.
Yeah. So it's like a combination of being able to afford a more expensive car, but also perhaps cars are made better.
Cars are 100 times better than they were.
Yeah.
Much better. But even brand new beautiful cars that cost tens of thousands can still break down.
Yeah, but I guess
so you still have a coat with you in the winter.
Yeah. I mean, somebody was even just saying with the snow about being forecast that we should always have a blanket in our car, we should always have a shovel in our car, and a kind of wee snack thing in case.
I carry a saw.
Yeah, but I mean, it can happen.
In case any trees come in, seriously.
You've got a saw?
I've got a saw. I've got to keep a saw in the boot.
A couple of winters ago, I was having a shovel in my car because the snow was so bad, and I had to go and help somebody to dig their car out, and even to get out of my drive. Remember, we had that really, really bad winter. Was that about pre-COVID, 5, maybe 6 years ago? And it was really, 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 really snowy. So
times have changed, Christine.
Yeah.
I remember in talking about cars breaking down, and that when I started playing, and I did quite a few gigs at New Year, right? And in the town, and we used to go up into George Square. After that, there was always people milling around George Square, things like that. And I remember having to push transit was the order of the day. For 3 years running, we were up there, and as you say, because the minute the starter motor went, you had to push it to get it started all the time, and we're always pushing these old transits all over the place to get them started.
But you used to be like that as well, Stuart, didn't
Aye,
you?
Stuart, you would-
Aye.
He was a roadie, so I
That's
remember
right.
the bands breaking down
Aye,
all
all
the
the
all
time.
the times that all these
And
cars
some
broke.
some of your gigs were quite not isolated, but they're quite
Oh,
far out.
This has been
Aye.
really far away places like Campbelltown.
Oh, really?
Campbelltown took about 5 hours to
Absolutely.
get there.
My
It's so
God.
far away, aye.
There, as I say, we're going away off here just now, but at Campbelltown, you just the memory I have of Campbelltown. The very first time I went to Campbelltown to play there, right, and went to Campbelltown, the local town hall or whatever it is there, and got into the stage, and the guy said, "There's the power is underneath that flap there. That's where the power is." So then, and you'll remember this, they had
multi-plug.
this multi-plug.
We had all multi-plugs, aye.
Right. So it was like they had a wee framework, and you just put it to, it slipped back and forward. It was this big gigantic plug, right, with all sorts of pins in it.
Oh.
Right. And it had and you just put it to whatever you thought it would fit that plug, and you put it, slipped it along, and shook the plug out, and the pins for that plug would come out of this. Not one of these, not
right?
one of them fitted
So it
that
showed you
plug.
what kind of-
Right, how old this is. This is probably about
70s?
67 or something like that.
Oh,
60,
right.
So that was
1960s.
30 years before that, though, that
Right.
would be installed. There
Right,
would be no more
right.
than that.
So none of all that. What we're going to do, right? And we actually found one of the stage lights, right? And we climbed up and got a stage light, and we found it a plug, but it had no earth, no proper earth in it, and we played. We could have got fried.
Especially
and we
the guitarists
said,
could have been gone.
we could have been fried.
But especially
And that was
having travelling all that way,
Campbelltown,
though, eh?
as you said, it was just we were flat, right? Try that, and right, when we put it to the framework to that. No, there's no fitting that. One of them must fit.
That was the whole point in the multi-plug.
Nah.
So it must have been fixed by the time I got there.
Yes,
a year or so
well,
later.
I said I remember saying to the guy, and he said, "We couldn't get a plug in it." He says, "I think he actually says, oh, people just stick the wires in there." No, they
probably did.
They probably did stick the wires in there. No, just put a couple of matchsticks in
Oh,
it,
I've seen
something
that.
like that. Stick the wires in a couple of matchsticks, you'll be fine.
Stop getting
Don't
on
bother
about it.
that.
Oh, that kind of
so,
thing.
So these are the sort of things that she went at New Year could quite easily be playing in Campbelltown.
Aye. Well, listen, I hope you've enjoyed our wee take on of New Year and our memories of the New Year. So that completes today's episode. We've really enjoyed your company. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I hope that maybe we've brought back a few wee pleasant memories for you as well. So remember, you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram and on TikTok. And the podcasts are available on Spotify and YouTube. So thanks for your company again. Look forward to seeing you next time. So it's bye-bye for me.
Cheerio.
Enjoy your steak pie.
Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you all.